I am now going to pause for the low-flying plane.
Well, good. Let's get it out right away.
Right as I started recording. Welcome to the Unwritten Earths Symposium podcast. The podcast where I sit down with my good friend, Eppy to talk about tabletop, truly true role-playing games. That's right. We'll do it in that order.
That's good. TTRPGs.
The TTRPGs. We'll find another TT to add next year.
Yeah.
And making them and playing them and, all the good things.
Coincidentally, it's the podcast where I sit down with my good friend, Nathan Paoletta, to talk about the TTRPGs.
So whenever we talk about tunnels and trolls, then we're talking about is it the T and TTRPG?
Yeah.
Tunnels and Trolls, the truly true tabletop role-playing game. But you need the and between the first of them. Between the two that are tunnel and troll.
It's funny because I'm going to be talking about a T&T a little bit later when we get to our homework on this episode, which is not Tunnels and Trolls, but a different T&T. I have a surprise topic for you.
Ooh.
You ready for this?
I am.
I mean, we did homework, so we should talk about the homework in a little bit. But there was a thing I was thinking about this morning, and I thought I should talk to Nathan about it. And I was like, if only we had a venue through which we could talk about tabletop, truly true role-playing games. So I was thinking about creative constraints, right? Mm-hmm. And where they, I was going to say where they surface, but that feels like it's getting into the discussion we had. Let's say. It's
all one ongoing discussion, so.
Yeah. The example I was thinking of this morning was about oldie time video games, right? Mm-hmm. Like the Atari, or like upwards to like the early Nintendos and things like that, where there were these physical constraints. I mean, there's always physical constraints when it comes to video games. It's just they're a little more hard-coded in the older
right, where it's like you only have like 8K of memory or whatever. So,
right, yeah.
Or the music has to be able to be translated through 8-bit, I don't know how any of this stuff works, but yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You don't have to really know to like understand like, oh, they can only get this much done, and that's why the graphics look the way they do. Mm-hmm. That's the why things it's not why things behave the way they do, but it's the constraints that then inspired these sorts of looks and behaviors, right? Like they're doing what they can with what they have, and they're pushing it to the limit. And oftentimes when they push it to the limit, that's when we get like the ones that really stick out, right? Like there's moments, I wish I could think of like some very specific examples. I can think of like the weird things, like apparently there are worlds in like Metroid and whatnot that you get to because you basically, your movement does something that the game isn't prepared for, and it goes to read what the next room is, but it's an off by one error. Mm-hmm. So the next room is weird because it's looking at the wrong data to create the room or something like that. But specifically, the constraints cause the people who are writing the software for this to write the software in interesting ways. And if you understand the software and you look at it, you can appreciate that art on that level. Mm-hmm. But also, as you're playing it, there's a thing that's born from those constraints. There's like an aesthetic that comes out of it, right? Like there's 8-bit. Mm-hmm. Anytime we talk about 8-bit now, we think of a certain style that is not legitimately, as far as I understand, not legitimately 8-bit, but like inspired by these old constraints, right? Like, and it's the same way that like, if you play these old video games on modern monitors, it doesn't matter what you do. You're not going to have the experience of the sort of blurry cathode ray tube. Yeah. Which forgives a lot of these blocky edges. My childhood experience of Mario is not the same as like if I looked at a pixel by pixel accurate picture of Mario on my screen. Right. Yeah. Anyways, that's a little divergent from what I'm talking about. But I'm talking about like so you have these constraints and where that kind of surfaces. So like I said before, you have like, you can look into the code and be like, oh, that's interesting if you understand the code and the decisions made there. But also, you don't have to understand the code on the outside to just be like, you see this little blob, and I understand that is a knight with a lance on the back of an ostrich when I'm playing Joust. And like, I don't know how I do that, right? Like, but that comes out of like, they only have like this kind of resolution to work with. And so they made a thing that just your brain does a good job of substitute. Wait, I'm on a tangent again. Bringing it back to role-playing games, right? Thinking about where creative constraints end up surfacing in role-playing games is kind of interesting, right? A lot of what you do when you design a role-playing game is you set out the affordances and constraints. Like a real mind-opening moment for me is Apocalypse World's read a situation. Instead of just rolling to notice a thing, you roll, and here's a list of questions you can ask. And that gives you these creative constraints, right? Like they say, hey, you, the player, your character's only concerned about this list of things. But then, taking that and going to like my own design, like I ended up doing with Wolfspell, that was the central conceit of Wolfspell, was that I was like, oh, what if I could force these on these two paths, the human adventurer and their wolf body or whatever. That creative constraint surfacing out into the like a future designer. Right. It can also, like, at the table surface in weird ways. I guess the question I'm asking, because I'm not really asking a question.
No, I'm waiting to see where you're going with this. I guess I have a couple of thoughts, but I'm waiting for you to decide where to end.
I don't know where to end. So basically, I was thinking, like, I don't have like a hypothesis. I don't have a thing where I'm going to be like, this is how things work, or this explains this behavior at the table or whatever. But I think it's interesting to look at and think about, is the person running the game doing a bunch of things just like those programmers did to ease the impact of the creative constraint? Like, they're taking on I don't want to say burden of the creative constraint, but they're gobbling up the creative constraint so that they can offer something less constrained to the players. Or no, I shouldn't say it's less constrained. It's not as obviously constrained, I guess. They're hiding, because that's sort of what's happening in like video games, right? Like in those old video games, they're not like, hey, we only have so many bits, so imagine this.
Well, it's like, they're not like, we only have so much memory, so there's only this many levels, there's only this many worlds in Mario. I mean, I'm assuming, I don't actually know, but there's a finite amount of stuff that you can experience in this game because there's hardware constraints, but you're not sitting there booting it up and it's saying, heads up, there's only this much stuff. Because of this. Like, you're just going to start the game and play it, and unless you're a programmer yourself or an enthusiast in this kind of stuff, until a new technology comes along that's different, you don't really necessarily think to question why the thing is the way it is, right?
Yeah.
And we call that progress, I guess. But
yes. But there's this brilliant trick that, like, the old video games did, where, like, if you go and look at old Atari box cover art, look up the Missile Command box cover art, and then look at Missile Command. Like, there's the box cover art is a world.
Yeah, the box cover art and, like, the ads, like those, like, 90s gamer magazine ads.
Here, I found not that this actually matters to anyone who's listening, but I'm just gonna
I'll put it in the show notes.
I'll drop it here. This single image, I think this is Yar's Revenge.
Oh yeah.
And the difference between the box cover art, which is like an alien insect shooting something at you from their mouth with like a starscape and planets in the background, and then the game itself, which is maybe that alien insect because it's the same color, roughly.
Right. It's just like this tiny little kind of Y-shaped blue figure, a bunch of colorful blocks, and then a big brown thing that's probably the thing shooting things at you. Who can say?
Yeah. And there's two worlds going on. There's the, like, when I'm playing it, there's the physical reality of the pixels, like, but then there's also in my head, I'm like, I don't know I don't even, like, Yar's Revenge is a great name for it too, because currently I haven't looked it up. I could look it up. It's on the internet probably. I don't know who Yar is. I didn't as a kid. Like, I just knew this was called Yar's Revenge, and I'm like, I assume Yar is this bug that I'm getting revenge on something, but it could be this other thing, and we're trying to stop the revenge. I guess comment below if you know, because I refuse to look it up.
Yeah, well, there's no way to know. It's impossible.
Yeah, no way to know.
So the whole project of making a game is creating constraint.
Right.
As you said, the whole point of what we're doing here is to eliminate the blank page so that there's a specific page that people are getting on, in terms of getting on the same page, to mix some metaphors.
That works. I'm in it. I'm in it.
So that's coming from the, like, design author side, right? Like, when I sit down to create this game, I am creating a certain set of constraints that are meant to guide or force play into a specific direction, to have some kinds of outcomes, some of which I can predict, and some of which I'm intentionally not predicting, but trying to make reasonable that they're going to happen at whatever pace, I think is appropriate. So there's that aspect. And then in the play realm, there's constraints that come from the game text. We're following the rules. But then there's also constraints that are more specific to a moment, right? Like, I was thinking while you were talking that one constraint, kind of one, like, big technological, for lack of a better term, constraint, in the same way that you only have so much memory that you can address with these older games, that shaped a lot of what we do and a lot of the stuff in our spheres, is that so many games that people were working on in the 2000s, 2010s to now were predominantly, or may not predominantly, but were often play tested in convention play, right? So that, and a lot of people either didn't have a home group, or the kinds of games they were designing didn't mesh with their local play culture, or online tools for playing weren't as robust, so it was hard to get people together online. So you end up with a generation or two of games where they are primarily played at conventions. And so playing a convention game with strangers in a 4-hour convention slot to get a satisfying experience became this kind of a technological constraint on the kinds of games that people could bring all the way out to, producing and getting out to people to play. And that's more of a local issue, right? In terms of, obviously during that time, there's also D&D 3rd edition and the relaunch of White Wolf stuff, and the end of the D20 boom, and then what the Rubble, and then what came after, and all that stuff was not shaped by convention play. That's shaped by different forces. So it's not like this thing that happened to all games, but it's a little bit of like, open your third eye, right? It's like, okay, if I see those as constraints as opposed to just like atmosphere, as opposed to just laws of nature, can you use those in your design? I too am rambling on this topic.
Yeah, it's fine. I think I have a good concrete example of a hardware constraint in role-playing games, right? Which is not everyone can talk at once, right?
Yeah.
So you look at like ways that on the design level, this is resolved, and it matters. Like, there's certain things that, like, for instance, solo journaling games really nailed this one. They're like, it doesn't matter. There's only one of you.
Yeah.
Easy level.
It sounds like a skill issue to me.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this is kind of a central thing to Swords, which is the die passing. It's not that other people can't speak when someone else has the dice, but that person has sort of the authority. So it's a loose. It's not hard coded. That's not the right term, but it's not as binding.
Yeah, binding is good. I'd say there's not like a physical barrier,
right?
So you're trying to enforce a social norm, but like obviously people can still talk over each other or whatever, or two people can reach for the dice at the same time, or you know, stuff like that. In a way that like a solo journaling game just takes that off the table. Like, you're never competing with another person for voice.
In contrast, initiative systems, right?
Mm-hmm.
They address the same issue, but they often do it on an incredibly granular level, to the point where, like, in some of the more popular games, you have a question about whether or not, like, your character, when it's not their initiative, answer a question. You know, I think most games will let you do that. Like, if you're in the middle of a fight, the villain is like, do we really need to continue? And you're looking at it, and the villain's, you know, minions, there's like 3 of them that have things that go before you go. And you're like, do I have to wait until my turn to answer that question? And mostly they'll be like, no, you can answer it. That's fine. And you're like, okay, that's great. Here's the thing. I got this spell that just requires that I say a word. So I'm just going to do that instead of answer the question.
And now you're getting into a different,
the smoothing there, right? Like, how do we deal with that? I think is where it surfaces on the player level. And by player, I mean anyone who's playing the game.
Yeah.
Making no distinctions between the person running it and the other players, or it ends up falling to the person running it, right? Because we have like a little authority issue going on there, where the person running it is probably telling you, according to the rules, you can respond, and then you're like, okay, my spell has a single verbal component, so I'm responding with that, and then it's like, oh, wait a minute, hold up. So it's interesting to think about where these things surface, right? Because would it not be fun if spells that have nothing but verbal components can actually just be used as responses to questions? Like, wouldn't that
just be in a sentence? There's like some kind of like
cue
to like, oh, this is the spell word. That's like
I feel like that's kind of a fun, creative way to get around this constraint, but also, like, we do have to worry about, in those kind of games, you have to worry about scaling, right?
Right, yeah.
And then you just do it every time.
From the design side, right, any structure you put in for adjudicating these kinds of, let's make sure everyone gets a turn, or like, let's make sure that everyone knows who's doing what when, because it's important, right? Like, it's important to know whether I have a chance to cast my spell before you have a chance to, stab me with your spear. Like, that is an important thing to know. And so one way, it's these like more granular initiative systems, of which there are many variations to people's taste, right? Because also a lot of it is a handling time issue, which itself is a constraint, is more of a physical constraint. I'm trying to think of a word that's not hardware, because it's not like software hardware. Like, that's not really a great map to tabletop. But there's like a physical or like kind of technological constraint of like, how long does it take to do the rules, right? That's a handling issue. Anyway, your structure around how to figure this stuff out is also a way to tell players how they should be thinking about those moments, right? So I'm thinking as a counterexample to the granular rank everyone in order initiative kind of thing is free and clear in Sorcerer.
Right.
The Ron Edwards Sorcerer. And Ron's done this in a couple, he kind of like does this in lots of his games, but
not the Roy Schneider vehicle.
No.
No.
But when there's like a conflict and you're going to use dice and you're going to roll them and things are going to happen, in Sorcerer it has what's called the free and clear phase. That is a bounded, hey, you know how everyone kind of goes like, well, are they over there or are they over there? Are they standing up on the ledge or are they down in the pit? Am I close enough to that person? Or am I still back by the door? Like, all this stuff that you kind of naturally need to negotiate to kind of get the positioning clear for everyone so they can say, oh, this is what I want to do, right? The free and clear phase is just like, let's talk all that stuff out. Like, let's figure out what you need to know so that you can then, after you roll the dice, you then know why you're going to make a decision about how to use them. Is kind of how Sorcerer works. I think that's set up very specifically in opposition to the staged initiative kind of situation, because like that negotiation of like the villain is going to say, hey, we don't need to fight about this, and it's like, oh, okay, I'm going to respond to them, right? But that means I get to trigger my spell,
right?
That's all kind of negotiated in free and clear, to where you then get to where, okay, so my dice are going to tell me whether my spell actually takes effect before he realizes that I'm tricking him, right, or something like that. Like what matters? Like, why do we care about this order? And the free and clear kind of gives you like, let's figure out all the context up front, and then we roll. And so that whole thing is telling players that when you get into conflicts, you can anticipate that there are generally going to be these kind of messy situations that you kind of need to parse out in the moment. While the staged initiative thing is more like, all right, when a fight happens, we're going to figure out who gets to go.
Yeah.
And then we're going to take turns, and everyone's going to get a chance to do their thing. And that's just like a different set of expectations for play that you kind of absorb as you learn the game and as you get through a couple sessions of it.
So thinking about this as like where the wait, hold on. Let me go back. Let me say what I was going to say and why I don't think it's a good question. I was thinking like, oh, maybe we can look at it and figure out like, here's the constraint. Not everyone can talk at once. And then Ron has his game, or, just make up a person named Gary and his game. And one uses initiative and one uses this free and clear thing, right? There's a design constraint going on that is not everyone can talk at once. That's not even the best way to word it, because you can all talk at once. It's just not clear.
The constraint is the constraint is more like, is difficult to figure out. Like, this is what makes it role playing, right? Like, you all need to, dare I say it, share the imagined space.
Yeah, it's difficult to figure out what the truth of the story is.
So it's like you need to get everyone in the same general imagined space.
And a barrier to this is if everyone talks at once, you're not sure which one is, of all those quantum timelines, which one is true.
Yeah, which one is, quote, what happens or what really happens.
Yeah. And so these aren't the only two approaches to this. This is just the two that we have going right now. So these designs surface in the designer space. Like, this is where I was originally kind of talking about this. And then like thinking about, okay, how does that surface to the players? How does that surface into the story itself? And finding, like, looking at it and thinking like, okay, if the initiative system surfaces into the players, that we know when our time is, and maybe we spend time thinking about what we're going to do next. But it's like a board game where somebody's action that goes before you can make what you were planning obsolete, right? I don't think that that's a bad thing. I want to be very clear about that.
It's a way to do it.
Yeah, it's a way to do it. Like, when you're playing a board game and someone does something that means whatever you were planning can no longer work, and you have to scramble to figure something else out, that's a good time. I want to be very clear about that, because I know that it can sound like I'm making fun of the initiative system, and I am, but not like,
but not in
that
way.
level. Yeah, not in that way. So, so that's how that's the thing that's surfacing to the players, and then thinking about how it surfaces in the fiction that we remember of what happened, right? This may be duller. This may be like looking at the pixels through a cathode ray tube, right? Like, not duller, but like less resolution. Like, we're not thinking, oh, and then that one time you went, and then so-and-so went, and then so-and-so went, and then so-and-so went.
Unless that particular interaction created a moment, right? Where it's like, oh, if only I had initiative before you, then we could have done this, but that didn't happen, and then this happened. And like, this happened is the important thing that everyone remembers, but there's that mechanical walk up to it that is part of why that is a memorable moment.
And that is the constraints of the rules bubbling all the way through to the fiction, right?
And that kind of thing tends not to happen with like a free and clear or we just kind of talk out how it goes, so that everyone gets their, to use a wrestling term, everyone gets their in, right?
Yeah. I mean, a clear way that this kind of almost in every game comes through is just like dramatically failed or dramatically succeeded roles.
Yeah. Critical fails, critical successes are both memorable moments usually.
Yeah, they bubble through the whole stack, if you will, or whatever.
Yeah, people remember when they roll that natural 20.
Yeah. I don't think about this when I'm making a game, or at least I'm not consciously thinking about it this way, right? Because this is a new idea that's occurring to me. Like, this is a new to me idea that's occurring to me, like thinking about where the constraints come up. But I think it might be fruitful going forward, right? Like,
yeah. Well, there's something that a framework for it, not a framework, but like a moment, I think, where it probably comes up for me when actually like working on design, right, is what is the what do I anticipate being the optimal conditions for playing this game, right? Is it a game for 2 people? Is it a game for 10 people? Is it a game to play in one session? Is it? And this kind of gets back to like talking about the surfaces idea that we talked about a couple episodes back. Like, if I'm envisioning a certain set of surfaces that I need to design to achieve the game, each of those is bounded. Like, that metaphor already has that idea of it. Yeah. A finite surface, right? They're intersecting, they're layered, whatever. So like, if a constraint of play in real time, in the play itself, is that we only have 2 hours, that's a constraint that is going to override anything I design in a game that is meant to play longer than 2 hours. Right. Yeah. You'll hack part of it, you'll skip part of it, you'll speed through something that you don't think is quite as interesting to get to like whatever the good stuff is, so that you can get the 2-hour version of it. Yes. Is that a constraint that I can design to? Is that there's a couple ways to handle that. I don't envision any particular time frame for this. People just play in the time they have until they're satisfied. So I just kind of am agnostic, right? So my design maybe then becomes worse in some instances and better in others, because I kind of because I'm still designing for something. Right. Whether that is an average of like, oh, people are going to play for 4 hours, or whether it's like, you could play through this whole thing in an hour. What happens if someone's like, I want to do it again? I don't know, who knows? Or I can take a position on that and say, here's the time frame I think this game should play. And then that becomes a surface I can design on, right? And then I can also say, okay, here's the optimal. I think this should be a 4-hour game, but here's how to do it in 2 hours. Right. I'm going to use some design authority to say, if you are going to mess with this, here's the best way to do it to get the good stuff. And the other way, you want to take this one-shot game and play it in campaign mode, right? Like linked, So like, here's stuff to give some structure and some connective tissue between different nominally one-shot games. So that's just like designer stuff to respond to what are some constraints that I can anticipate actual people having when they actually try to play the game.
And I do want to kind of clarify something I said before, which I do think about affordances and constraints all the time when I write games. The thing that I'm not thinking about is this idea of like where all the constraints end up being evident. A lot of times I'm trying to hide them, right? Like this is the read the situation thing, right? The read the situation makes the constraint very clear, but you don't realize that you're being put, you're just like, I'm making this move. This is the move I'm allowed to make. These are the things I'm allowed to say. You're not thinking, I'm being constrained here, until you realize that you are. Like, you're like, but I want to ask this other question or whatever. Like, so anyways, just basically, I wanted to like, I was a little worried that like, no, I do think about constraints all the time. There's just something about it here that I think is a little different, which is where is this showing up? Not where it stops, right? But like, who has to deal with it, and what do they pass on to the next person, right?
There's something that resonates to me here with the idea of like, a game feels intuitive, or when it feels like everything just like is just, oh yeah, this is just how it should work. Like, obviously it should work this way because we've been playing, and then we get to this point and we do this thing and we're like, oh, this is just so clear. It's just so, this is how we do. And how a lot of that is about using your design of the game to put the complexity, you've dealt with the complexity up front as the designer, so that players are dealing with outcomes and not processes. So the example here that I'm thinking of is in card-driven games. Let's get back to cards. Where you have prompts and oracles that are coded to cards. And then, this is going all the way back to the Shrike last year, where one thing I liked about that game so much was you have a 52 card deck, and all of those cards have things that they mean if you draw them. Right. But the way you slice and dice the deck for play is going to constrain what some of those outcomes are going to be based on the nature of the cards that you have and how you stack them. And then you're only encountering each thing on the card every so often, but the things on the cards are going to talk to other things on later cards, because that's where the design put all the complexity into figuring out, here's some story elements that I want to have come up over and over. So therefore, these cards are going to have them. And the way that you put the deck together is going to be designed such that these things are going to be in proximity. And then when you play, it's just like, oh, a story beat. Oh, this is referring to a character we already saw. It's not that that's an invisible set of constraints. You're like, obviously, you're only going to have as many things as the cards you have. And you're only going to be dealing with... what the cards already have on them, right? Like that's a very like, you only have 8 bits of memory kind of thing.
Right. Yeah.
You don't have an infinite amount of outcomes. Unlike a more oracle driven thing where it's like, well, this, they're oracles, but like something where it's more like, okay, this suit means this kind of thing, and this number means this kind of thing. So decide what that means, which is very creative and fun, but is a quantum array of could be anything, and then you're collapsing it as you play. This is like, no, these are specific things. This dude is on this card, and this card. If you draw them in this order, here's the deal. But if you draw them in this order, different deal. Yeah. And that, I think, is maybe getting a little bit to what you're saying, where the constraints that you have designed towards, once you see them like in play, they're still guiding, they're still creative, I guess, is the thing. Right? That's the whole thing about creative constraints. Like they're still there are still creative things that you get to enjoy. And part of the joy, maybe this is getting to it, and part of the joy is seeing, oh, given that this is the constraint, here's all the cool stuff that we still can do. Right. Here's all the stuff that came out of play. It can be more fulfilling or more like have more of a joy to it when you're like, wow, I never would have anticipated that we could have had this kind of story that came out of this set of hard-coded prompts.
Here's a decision that we were forced to make because we weren't allowed to do what we wanted. Just whatever we wanted to do. Yeah. No, I mean, like, we're big constraint fans here. That should be evident. Yeah. Anyways,
so there's something for everyone to think about over the holidays. Yeah. How about that?
Yeah, exactly. It was a thing I was thinking about, and we didn't have a whole lot on the docket for today, aside from our homework. So I thought I'd bring it up.
If this conversation has created some kind of thought in your design brain or your non-design brain, we're not particular. Let us know. So we say this conversation continues. This is one of those, we're just talking, don't really have a conclusion here, but there may be something here for future pondering.
There's a genre of discussion out there that I don't see often enough that I really enjoy, which is when people, like, when they're talking about games and then they're like, here's the thing we did because this. You know what? I think it's the opposite of, I'm going to call it, it's the opposite of like, oh, we played the whole game, we never rolled the dice once, right? That's a thing. That's a thing. Someone's thing. But we rolled the dice and we got this, so this happened. Yeah. What I would love to hear is people's, where a constraint has surfaced all the way up into your memory of the tale told at the table. Tale told at the table. Another table. Wow,
a TTT of a TTRPG.
Yes. Anyways, like, share with us if you're like, here's the thing that happened in a game, because we couldn't do this, this is how it went down. Or it doesn't even have to be because we didn't do this, but just like, this is what the game brought about.
I have one specific example that I immediately think of when you put in these words. As is well documented, big White Wolf storyteller system guy. One of the critiques of the 90s versions of those games that I agree with is a lot of the rules of the game take you into where supernatural superheroes, and as opposed to a game of personal horror,
dark horror,
right?
Yeah,
and that's fine. There's lots of tools in those games for horror, but they are not always encoded in the rules. Sure. The New World of Darkness, the Chronicles of Darkness, right? Which is the 2000s reboot version, where they kind of went back to first principles, turned the clock back so they weren't doing all the meta plot stuff, etc. And the flagship first of those games was the vampire game. So not Vampire the Masquerade, but Vampire the Requiem. A friend of mine ran a game of that. We're all, excited to play. So I actually was playing in the game for once. So this is one of those, in a long span of time where I was usually running games. I was like, oh, I get to play. So I made my vampire, I was into all the cool stuff. He's like a musician and whatever, all kinds of stuff. And in the first session, we had just a very typical first session. We're just kind of playing out a night in the life, a night in the unlife of these characters. And my character, was low on blood and was going to go feed. The system for doing that, I don't remember the details now, but very specifically, I do remember I made my roll. You do a roll when you do it, and there's a spectrum of outcomes. And one of them is losing control of how much blood you're going to take from your victim.
Right. Yeah.
And that happened in my roll. And it was very specifically because the nature of the roll was determined by some stats or whatever. And so the way that I'd done my stats made me be more susceptible to losing control in this way. And I hadn't really anticipated it, but when it happened, I was like, oh yeah. And also the consequences of doing that had a systemic element to, the what my character could do. It constrained my character's actions, right? There were some things I could not do because I had made that role in that way. And again, I don't remember the details exactly what is happening in the story, but that memory of oh, this matters in this game. In the Requiem, it matters if you mess up, below the roll. It's kind of presented.
Yeah.
It's kind of a spectrum where it's not really good or bad. It's kind of for the story. But as opposed to the Masquerade, where it's kind of sure, there'd be circumstances where this would happen, but it would be kind of architected by the story, ongoing story. It wouldn't necessarily be a systemic outcome. This one was oh, I did this, I rolled the dice, this happened. Now my character is acting in a way that I was not planning for him to act. And I don't really want him to act. Well, now I have to turn this into my conception of the character, right? I have to change how I'm thinking of this guy because of this systemic outcome. I was like, yes, the rules matter in this game.
Yeah.
So that was a good moment.
I would go. I don't know if I've talked about this. Whatever. We probably talked about this on air during Some Plus Expenses or something. But I often when I play a game, the closer a game hews to D&D, the more and more likely I'm going to play a character that I view as a loser. It's basically so that I don't have to reconcile failed rolls with the concept of a hero. I understand fiction and how fiction works, and that you struggle with things and then you overcome it. That's the story of a hero. That is not the problem here. The problem here is just the incessant whipping that happens, and it just happens anywhere all the time. And I'm okay, that's fine. I can enjoy a game like that, but now I'm going to play a character from a Jack Vance story, not a character from a Robert E. Howard story, right? I'm going to play somebody who's a ne'er-do-well, a little bit of a mess up, and when they mess up, that's going to be fun. I'd rather play Gru than Conan in a D&D. That's all I'm saying, I guess. I think I'd rather play Gru than Conan, no matter what. So that's not even necessarily but yeah.
If I could put some more general words to that, maybe it sounds like you create your characters such that when you fall into that, I really wanted to do this thing, oh, I don't do it.
Right. Yeah.
When you step in that pit that you know you're going to step into, that doesn't destroy your fun in the moment, right? You're like, okay,
right, exactly.
because this is Gru, it's fine that I messed this up. In fact, I'm anticipating systemic moments
and hoping for
the big thing that it's like, oh, this is everything hinges on this roll. Oh, I rolled a 1. I know that's going to happen, and I don't want it to destroy my fun, so I will play this kind of character.
Yeah, no, that's exactly it. And that this dates all the way back. Like, this goes back to first edition. Like, this, I was learning this in the 80s.
There are now family trees of different kinds of games that just have rules so that this doesn't happen, right? Like, whether it's bennies, right, or story points, or I mean, even in 5th edition, there's inspiration. Like, this is a thing where it's like, let's design around this problem, and you're like, I'm going to design my character around this problem.
Yes, exactly.
Just in case, because I know I've been burned before.
Yeah.
But no, let us know if there's like those moments that still resonate in your memory because of the constraints of the game.
Yeah, I'd love to hear about it.
Speaking of constraints, we gave ourselves the constraints of homework this for this episode, and we are also constrained by time, so maybe we'll go through these a little quickly. Mine shouldn't take that long.
Yeah. Mine shouldn't either.
So here's the homework that we assigned, which I'll put right here. Our homework for our next recording is we're each going to come with some kind of in-universe or in-world or in-fiction holiday or festival for a project that we're working on, and talk about how it, like kind of what does that mean in the design, I guess. Like, what does that mean for the design of the game? Yeah. All right. And we're back. So, Eppy, what'd you do for homework?
Right. So I guess this is becoming a consistent thing with us where we now have a audio record of what the actual homework was. And this is the homework I did.
Right.
I wanted to come up with something holiday based. I think at the time we were like, oh, we can invent a holiday for some fictional world. And at some point I realized that I had done this years ago. I had made a miscellany of 36 different holidays and celebrations, which was at the time, Patreon exclusive to people that were subscribed to Worlds Without Master, but we're going to bring that back and throw it in with all the other miscellany and some additional ones in the upcoming Swords thing. So I'm not doing that. This is what I'm doing. There's a game, a TNT, Trial and Terror, Supernatural Victims Unit. Trial and Terror is a game in a jiffy that we made, the first game in a jiffy that myself, Jim Sullivan, and Jason Keeley, we made based on, I believe Jason Keeley had the initial idea. It's based on the propaganda series Law and Order, if you're familiar with it. And the idea is you play over the course of an hour or 2 hours, speaking of time constraints. I don't remember off the top of my head. It's been at least a year since I read the rules. But like over a course of a certain amount of time, for the first half, you time it. And for the first half, you play the detectives and investigating a crime. And for the second half, you play the attorneys trying to prosecute whoever the detectives brought in for that crime. It's available for free. It's out there. I won't go into like how it plays or whatever, but it's important to understand the conceit here is that this is not a murder mystery game. Like, your detectives are solving a murder mystery, but this is a prosecution game.
Right. It's a procedural prosecution game.
Yeah, procedural. Yeah. So what's fun about it is not like, oh, will they solve the murder? The game very specifically, very explicitly, the game's like, these rules are not about whether or not they solve the crime. They're about whether or not you can send someone to jail.
Right. Yeah. That
is a critique. I'm going to leave that critique out there. With that in mind, I am going to now give you a scenario that I ran last year that is a holiday-based one that is delightful. But I'm also going to say spoilers. Like, I don't think it matters. I don't think it matters. But if you want to skip ahead until you can't hear my voice.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So when you design a scenario for, I did a little air quotes around design there. I shouldn't have. Basically, you're playing out a Law and Order episode. You're playing out this detective prosecution thing in a world where supernatural beings exist,
right,
and have legal status. Like everyone is aware of them, right? So, there are vampires. People know about vampires. Your neighbor might be a vampire, and you can take that vampire to court if they do vampire things that violate your personal rights or, whatever. That's the baseline. They all take place in this fictional New York City where these people exist. Well, they don't all just exist in New York City, but like in this world where the supernatural entities exist and have, yes.
In New York, yeah.
In this New York, then, this is the scenario. So, when you make a scenario for this, you're not developing a mystery. You're just creating a crime. And the sort of important thing is what neat things can end up happening in court. Not like, how does this mastermind hide their crime from the police, right? Like, so keep that in mind. So here's the crime. There is a little Victorian, which is a tiny, it's like Chinatown, Little Italy, but it's filled with Victorian ghosts and Victorian times in this New York City little neighborhood there. Every winter, people gather in the Little Victorian because they want to be the person that's there when someone gets Scrooged and they throw the windows open and they say, "You there? What day is it?" Right? Like, it's a holiday tradition, right? Like you'd be like, "Oh, I got to tell the Scrooge that it was Christmas Day, sir." And so, like, it's a touristy thing that people enjoy. This isn't like an act, though. Like, somebody gets Scrooged every year,
right,
and then they have this thing. And the crime where you start is that there is a Scrooge laying in the snow who's been defenestrated, been thrown out the window and died, right? Like it threw the window open. "You there? What day?" That's so you show up, you get to make your puns about like, them dying or whatever, and you get to investigate like the scene of the crime or whatever. Now I'm going to tell you what the crime is, because it's not a murder mystery. This is the crime. This is a Scrooge, right? This is somebody who's a bad person who has just experienced a life-changing evening of going through their history and whatnot. And this Scrooge knows or has had a history with the gang from Frosty the Snowman. Like they grew up together as kids, right? And because this Scrooge, like all billionaires, all like obsesses over things that they're not allowed to have or whatever, has stolen the magic hat, right? So they have he has Frosty's magic hat in a vault somewhere. Over the course of this night where we've gone to Christmas past and Christmas present, Christmas future, when they got to Christmas future, one of those kids from the gang, as an adult, figured out that he had stolen the hat and followed him back into the present to grab the hat. And when he was discovered, threw Scrooge out the window. So that's the crime. Like, okay, it's a complicated mystery to solve or whatever. It doesn't matter, because what's fun about it is when you get it to the court, because this person has also escaped back into the future. Right. So you get it to the court, and now the question is, do you try person in the present who becomes the person in the future who comes back and kills the Scrooge, right? So, like, how do you prosecute that? It's not even do you prosecute, because you do. You are the baddies. Like, I don't want to mince words here. So the second half, like the first half is discovering what the whole thing is, and then the second half is figuring out, like, how do you prosecute? Like, a fun thing about the game is just using this. You get to invent law around the supernatural. So you could be like, this person is a quantum entity. We don't know what their future is going to be just because one ghost says that, like that kind of thing. You could have these arguments in court, and it's fun. Anyways, that's my holiday offering. If you've played Trial and Terror or you want to, that's a fun way to do it. What you got?
So you heard what we said. As I was ruminating on it, I was like, okay, I had a couple thoughts come up. I have a couple games where I could do kind of like this, where it's like a holiday kind of scenario, right? Like I was thinking there could be a way of playing a game of Annalise where you set it up to be like centered around a holiday. That game has what I call guided play scenarios, where it preloads the characters and also the claims, which are like little narrative bits that are going to become central to the story. So you could preload the claims with stuff about memory and celebration and stuff like that. There was a really good conversation in the Discord actually about like what is a holiday tradition? What would that look like? What are some fun ways to think about, like what do holidays actually mean? How do you represent that in fiction? So I was kind of thinking about that. And then I was like, or kind of what my intention was with the assignment, the way that I articulated it was like something more concrete, where it's like, here's a event or like a thing in a game. But I don't really have a good enough hold on the lore card game to like really put something together. Anyway,
right.
I'm going back through my Rolodex of what have I done? What has potential here?
Yeah.
A couple years ago, I was commissioned to write a quick setting for an Italian game called Fantasy World, which is a apocalypse world, which is a powered by the apocalypse fantasy game. And it has like a core rule set, and then it has what it calls quick settings that give you different kind of a little bit of a world, and then like how the different, because there's like all the different playbooks. So it tells you like what do these playbooks look like in this world, and if there's like special rules about them or whatever. So the quick setting that I did for this game is called Hail the Victorious Dead. And it's where I started creating my shared fantasy world that my games actually are starting to live in. In Hail the Victorious Dead, you are playing characters in this kind of vaguely Mediterranean.
It's a great name, by the way.
Thank you. I think it's stolen. I think it's from Tolkien, if I remember. I think it's from a Rohirrim bit. But anyway,
right. So little sketch comedy from Rohirrim.
There's this vaguely Mediterranean group of communities and little city-states around the Crescent Sea, and this was threatened by the approaching undead hordes of the Mummy Kings. So the Crescent Sea Compact formed to fight against this territorial expansion. There's this long grinding set of battles, and then eventually a material in their kind of these defending mountains. They found this material called Bloodstone, which absorbs necromantic magic and became key to defeating the Mummy Kings. The battle lines had ground to stalemate, and then eventually, the defenders were able to negotiate a treaty establishing a new border with the with said Mummy Kings. And so the game takes place after this, where you're playing returning soldiers from this conflict, coming back into your homes where you've been displaced for years on these front lines. But you're returning to a world where things aren't that different from the thing you thought you were fighting to protect against, etc. So in Fantasy World, there's this concept of blood, which is kind of like ethnicity or racial background or whatever. So in this setting, I use it to represent the nature of your character coming back from the conflict. So you either come back alive.
I love these options already when you start with alive. Like, okay, go on.
Start with alive. You come back alive, or you come back scarred, where like you survived, but you bear the story of what you went through on your body. You come back hollow, where your body survived, but what about what lies within? You feel that something is missing. Or you can come back undead. The magics of the Mummy Kings were not limited to just their side of the war. So these are your characters. And then there's a bit of a social situation and some description of the kingdom and whatever. So I was like, what would a holiday be? In this world, there is the Day of Victory, as obviously we're hailing the victorious dead. So the Day of Victory, which commemorates the signing of what's called the Bloodstone Treaty, which is what, ended the war. It happened to be on the autumnal equinox, which also put it in the realm, like kind of my idea is it's maybe not literally that day, but like there's like some kind of moving day around the equinox that is Ancestors' Day, and that's a long held folk holiday. which is of like communal remembrance of those who came before. If someone has died and recently, you would wait and have their funeral rites on Ancestors Day. There's no daily obligations. No one's expected to like work or go out to the fields or whatever. You spend the day in conversation with family, learning about your history, the stories of your ancestors, that kind of stuff, reflecting on your memories of those who have passed. And then you raise these great bonfires at night. And those are to show to your ancestors up in the celestial sphere that they are remembered because they can see the fires, right, is the idea. So this is like an ancient tradition that maybe has different specifics in different communities, but this is like Ancestors Day is like a thing. And so now the Day of Victory is hijacking Ancestors Day, as it is declared a state holiday by there's like a political alignment resulting from this conflict. So now there's kind of like, it's nominally a republic, but it's kind of a military dictatorship. And so the seat of the Crescent State Compact, the political unit, it has like the largest city in the area, and then there's towns close to the border where there is still the border with the Mummy Kings. They all hold victory parades led by soldiers who fought in the battle. It's called the Battle of Naxos, and as a like, we did it, it's victory, and it's meant to be kind of a start to build a sense of patriotism about the result of the war. In other places, it's recognized in proportion to how many veterans are there and how they feel about the war. And then there's one theme in it is this idea of like your town or your village or your community has kind of returned to how it always was, except now there's like a governor or something, or like a mayor who's responsible to the higher ups in the compact about like organizing things underneath this new political regime. So there may be conflict between like, well, we're doing Ancestors Day, but you want us to do Victory Day or the Day of Victory. So what does that mean? And then the bonfire remains a focal point of the evening. So it's like you do the parade, and then once the sun sets, you set a victory fire, the bonfire of victory. And this is spontaneously has become this really pregnant point of symbolism. So the idea is that, like, this all just happened. Like, this might be the first day of victory is like what you might be playing through, or like the second.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah.
Like, all this stuff happened like fresh in the last couple of years. So in the bonfires, now you have these veterans who will throw memorabilia or equipment or stuff that they've brought with them back from the front lines. They'll throw them into the bonfires now. It can be highly symbolic depending on like, what are you saying? Like, are you abandoning that? Are you saying I'm rejecting this whole conflict, or I regret what I did? Or are you saying I'm freeing myself of these memories, I'm moving forward with a fresh start? Like, so the idea is this could be you could play up to and into this celebration and then see what happens when you get to this like moment of deciding to throw things into the bonfire or not. So cool. Yeah, so that was, I kind of sketched out those notes in terms of like, how would I write this up to have as a part of this text? And so there's some things where there's specific effects that kind of go into how the game works to my best of my memory, because I don't know. Like I said, I wrote this.
Been a while.
Yeah, I wrote it in 2021. So yeah, been a while. But for those who are alive, observing Ancestors Day or participating in the Day of Victory can erase a disadvantage. There's disadvantages, there's advantages, and there's these like narrative tags that can position you differently for what's going on. That can basically end up giving you advantage or disadvantage depending on, the relationship of your tag and what's the other people's tags or whatever. So for those who are alive, you can like erase disadvantages or remove negative tags. It's kind of like you can grow from doing it. For those who are scarred, burning something from the war in the bonfire can erase your frightful tag. You start the game with a frightful tag, or gain you a positive tag. Like maybe this is a way of you coming to terms with like your community or something. For those who are hollow, observing Ancestors Day and learning of those who came before can give you a new perspective, and you can you start with an alienating tag. And so that's specifically Ancestors Day. I leave it, there's nothing in particular about the Day of Victory. And then if you're undead, the whole day is very uncomfortable as you feel that you're on the wrong side. and you just spend the whole day with disadvantage to like whatever you're doing.
Yeah, thanks.
So those are, again, first notes. I bet there would be something else if I, played this out with some people and saw how it would
Right.
probably adjust how those like effects maybe worked.
It's just fun because it's like, it's a holiday, but it's also, you positioned it in a time when it's rife with what conflict, I guess is the word. I didn't want to use conflict because it was more like
it's actively being contested.
There's questions. Yeah.
Like, there's some forces that are like, we need to establish this as like a pivotal civic, moment to help with our ongoing political project. And then there's other forces that are like, we need to reject what that is because it's actually, you can see a future where it's like, well, we're all doing Day of Victory, but it's really Ancestors Day, right? Like that kind of thing, down the line. But right now it's being actively contested about like, who does this matter for? Who observes it in what way? And what does it mean? Which, coming out of the conversation in the Discord, I thought that was really interesting about holidays that come out of civic things as opposed to like religious things or social, cultural things. And then also how they change over time with distance from, how they were originally conceived. Yeah,
that's cool.
That's my homework. Here's a thing for an Italian game that you may or may not have heard of. I'll link it in the show notes.
That's all things should be that specific. That's how you end a podcast.
Yep, that is how you end a podcast.
Oh, well, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. Well, I will say there are some things that do matter, including wishing everybody a happy Eppimas and rest of the holiday season, as we tend to call it. I ended up going away from a winter holiday. I was like, maybe like a Festival of Lights kind of thing. But then the thematic stuff in the scenario, I was like, took me down this other path. This is the last episode of 2025. So we'll see you next year.
We'll just insert here a recap of the entire year.
All the highs, maybe a low or two. Who can say?
Yeah, exactly.
Next time we record, we will be very close to the launch of Swords Without Master. The pre-sign up campaign page has been updated with all of our artists.
Yes.
So that's very exciting. You can go check that out for a little preview of who's on board. Yeah, it's a good list.
Yeah. I'm super excited about everyone that's on board. It's a humbling experience. Now I've got to be like, okay, now I got to make Swords worth this.
And you will.
That's an inside Eppy problem that will get resolved the way they usually do. Brute force.
City of Fire and Coin is out if you want to check out the play along adventure. So all the links will be in show notes and also at ye olde website, unwrittenearths.com. Join us in the Discord, talk about holidays. It'll be great.
Yeah, or constraints. Yeah.
Yep.
Whatever. We're good.
Yeah,
we're chill. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays, everyone. Our music is by Will Yopes. Thank you, Will. Will is continuing to kill it over at goodluckpress.co. The Unwritten Earth Symposium podcast is by us. Go us. I usually talk about Will now, but I just did. So thank you again to Will Yopes for our music. It's so nice. I'll say thank you twice. And as we close out our calendar year here, Eppy, have we made a game yet?
Oh, no. Oh, no.
The look of fear on your face.
Yeah.
You'll be visited by 3 ghosts.
Oh.